If you're running a European business, you know Turkey is a manufacturing powerhouse, practically on your doorstep. It's this incredible bridge between East and West, just full of opportunity. But to actually turn that potential into profit, you've got to know the landscape. So let's dive into the 3 biggest risks you're likely to face, and, more importantly, how you can build a solid plan to sidestep them completely.
So, first off, why even look at Turkey? Well, the appeal is pretty obvious, right? We're talking way faster lead times than sourcing from the Far East, which gives your business a huge agility boost. Production costs, super competitive, and the supplier base is just incredibly diverse and high quality, everything from textiles to auto parts. The real kicker, though, is the customs union with the EU. For a lot of goods, it just simplifies trade and cuts through so much red tape. It's a seriously compelling package.
But here's the reality check. You can't just find a supplier, place an order, and hope for the best. Real success, the kind that lasts, really hinges on proactively managing a few key challenges. Now the good news? These risks are 100% avoidable if you have the right strategy in place.
All right, let's jump into the first major hurdle. And believe me, this is one that can stop your business dead in its tracks before your products even leave the port. I'm talking about documentation pitfalls.
Just imagine this for a second. Your shipment, the one you've been waiting for, finally arrives. But it's stuck. It's going nowhere. And why? Because a crucial certificate is out of date. Or maybe a test report doesn't match your exact product. It could even be an invalid CE marking. This one little piece of paper can bring your entire supply chain to a grinding halt. And you know what? It happens way more often than you'd think.
And make no mistake, we're not just talking about a simple delay. The consequences here are serious. You could be looking at legal penalties, big fines, storage fees, not to mention the damage to your reputation with customers who are waiting for their orders. And here's the thing that's really changed the game. Under new EU laws like the Supply Chain Act, the legal liability can land squarely on your shoulders, you the European buyer. Getting the paperwork right isn't just a good idea anymore. It's absolutely your responsibility. So, how do you protect yourself? It's actually a pretty clear 3-step process. First, verify everything. Don't just take a certificate at face value. Use a third-party firm to check if it's authentic. Second, specify every single required document in your supply agreement. Make it a non-negotiable part of the contract. And third, partner with experts. A good freight forwarder who specializes in Turkey-EU trade is worth their weight in gold. They are your second pair of eyes.
Okay, let's move on to risk number 2. This one is a classic fear in global sourcing, and I call it the quality gap. This is all about the painful difference between that perfect sample you approved and the bulk order you actually get.
It's a tale as old as time, really. You sign off on a flawless sample, the color is perfect, the materials feel premium, the finish is impeccable. But then the container arrives and the reality is, well, it's different. Suddenly you're seeing inconsistent color shades, you suspect they use cheaper substitute materials, and there are visible defects. This kind of gap can absolutely destroy your profit margins and your brand's reputation. The solution here is to build a quality assurance fortress right from day one. You start with a ridiculously detailed technical sheet. Specify everything, right down to the Pantone codes for your colors. Then you have to implement multi-stage inspections. You check the raw materials before production even starts, you check again during the process, and then you do one final tough inspection before anything gets shipped. And finally, put it in writing. Include clear financial penalties for quality failures right in your contract. That is how you guarantee accountability.
Now for our third and final risk, this one is a little more subtle, but it can be just as damaging. It's not about paperwork or products. It's about people. It's the risk of cultural misunderstandings.
I'm sure every single one of us has heard this phrase before. On the surface, it sounds great, right? Very reassuring. But what does it actually mean?
See, the meaning of that simple phrase really comes down to cultural context. For a European buyer, as soon as possible usually means drop everything, this is urgent. But in Turkish business culture, which is very relationship-driven, it can be a much more flexible statement. It's not a lack of commitment, but it's a different cultural approach to time. And if you don't understand that nuance, it can lead to some major frustration and missed deadlines.
So how do you bridge this cultural gap? Well, first, you have to invest time in building a personal relationship. Turkish business is built on trust, so that initial chat over a cup of tea isn't just a formality, it's crucial. Second, document everything. After any phone call or meeting, just send a polite, simple email that summarizes the key points and the deadlines you agreed on. And third, especially if you're new to the market, think about hiring a local sourcing agent. They can be your cultural and linguistic bridge, making sure nothing ever gets lost in translation.
Okay, let's pull all of this together. We've talked about risks, sure, but I want you to reframe this. This isn't about being scared, it's about building your proactive sourcing plan.
So yeah, we covered 3 big risks, but here is the most important takeaway of all. None of them are deal breakers, not even close. They are simply business variables that you need to manage. And when you manage them well, that's what forms the foundation of a truly powerful long-term partnership.
When it all comes down to it, it's this simple. By taking proactive control of your documentation, your quality, and your communication, you transform those potential pitfalls into a supply chain that's resilient, efficient, and, most importantly, profitable. You're literally turning risk into a competitive advantage.
So, now you have a plan to manage the risks? That's huge. But it brings up an even bigger question, doesn't it? In a market with thousands and thousands of suppliers, how do you find that one perfect partner to even begin with? Well, that is exactly what we are going to tackle in our next explainer.